All right. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to our Family Building Grants 101 webinar. I'm Samantha Watson. I am the founder of the SAM Fund and the Managing Director of Stewardship at Expect Miracles. I'm joined by Michelle Landwehr, who's our Director of Programs and Operations at Expect Miracles Foundation. Many of you probably know her from our many years at the SAM Fund when she was running our grants program. She's continuing, but we're going to talk a little bit more about why you're seeing both names in just a sec. But I want to welcome you to this webinar. We're going to spend about 45 minutes to an hour going over this new, actually, extension of our grants program, which we're very excited about. We're glad you can join us. The recording will be posted on our YouTube channel, and we'll link out to it on social media later this afternoon. So if you know anybody that might benefit from the information, please feel free to share it. So let's get started. First off, if you have any questions during the webinar, you'll see there's a little chat icon on your screen. We will do our very best to answer your questions during the presentation. You can also email your questions to grants@thesamfund.org. And if we aren't able to get to your question or it requires any sort of follow-up, we will certainly follow up afterwards. Okay, so right off the bat, we just want to explain why those of you who have been familiar with the SAM Fund for so many years are now seeing the SAM Fund plus Expect Miracles Foundation. It's actually really, really exciting and still pretty brand new that as of July 1st, we've joined forces with a nonprofit organization called Expect Miracles Foundation. So Expect Miracles Foundation is also a 501c3 public charity, and our mission statement here is to rally the financial services industry and beyond to invest in life-saving cancer research while advancing the financial and emotional health of people impacted by cancer. While we know that everyone strives to hear the phrase cancer-free, we know that cancer isn't free. So now the SAM Fund is a marquee program of Expect Miracles Foundation. We're still providing support to young adults who are struggling financially. We're still doing direct financial assistance and free online support and education. So the really exciting thing for all of us, and especially those of you who have been part of the SAM Fund for a while, is that this just puts us in a position to grow and scale and do even more. And the fact that family building grants are now a separate program is sort of testament to the potential that we have and, you know, the first sign that it's just going to get bigger and better from here. So we are very, very excited, very proud to be part of Expect Miracles, and especially proud to be able to tell you that our SAM Fund programs aren't going anywhere. So let's jump right in. Like I said earlier, this is the first time that family building grants are sort of set apart in their own cycle with their own timeline. But I want to just give a quick overview first about what our grants program is all about, who we're designed to help, and sort of where our priorities are. And the purpose of this webinar really is to give you guys just as much advice, information, be as transparent as possible to help you submit the most successful application. So again, if you have questions, feel free to ask, and we're really just here to be helpful and to do what we can to support you guys. So with regards to the SAM Fund Grants Program overall, we don't have to tell any of you on this webinar today that cancer isn't free and that the costs go far beyond just the doctor's bills. So if you've gone through cancer treatment as a young adult, or even if you've gone through cancer treatment as a child and are now a young adult, probably you have no money left in your savings account. Probably you've had to spend time away from work. We all know that COBRA and insurance premiums are astronomically high, and the cost of copays is continuing and mounting. And so there's so many costs associated with cancer that some people don't always think about, but we get it, and we're here to try and help with that. So the purpose of the grants program is really to provide relief from your immediate financial pressures so that instead, you can spend whatever time, energy, and money you have on moving forward towards your goals. We don't want you to have to feel stressed. We don't want you to field calls from bill collectors and deal with anxiety and all of the things that go with it. We want you to be able to take a deep breath, feel motivated, feel well supported, and empowered to keep going forward. So generally speaking, here's who's eligible to apply. So you have to be a resident of the United States. You have to be 21 to 39 years old at the time when the application is submitted. So the due date for this family building grant application is October 4th, 2019. So at the moment when you click submit, you have to be between 21 and 39. If you are about to turn 40, just submit your application before your birthday and you'll be good. With regards to the treatment eligibility criteria, this one gets a little bit more complicated, and we're happy to field questions about this if there's any confusion. But individuals who are eligible to apply must meet one of the following criteria. So you either have to be finished with your planned treatment with no evidence of disease, or at least 1 year post the completion of planned therapy with stable disease, or in remission and either on long-term hormonal therapy or long-term targeted therapy. And so we've gone over this pretty much every year with our medical advisors, and we're trying to keep pace with medicine. It's advancing really fast, and so we're trying to stay true to our mission of helping young adults after treatment, knowing that sometimes there are situations where people are going through treatment indefinitely. And so we know that this unfortunately excludes some people. We know that this can be confusing. We certainly also know that we're not medical providers. So if you have a question as to whether you fit into any of these categories, please let us know. Send us an email to grants@thesamfund.org, and we will run it by our medical advisors to be sure. So now let's get to the good stuff. We're going to talk about the family building grants and answer questions. We'll take you through a sample application. We'll tell you sort of the things that you'll need to prepare in order to submit this application and give you some insight from previous committee conversations to share with you sort of, what they're looking for, what they tend to prioritize. So family building grants are for young adult survivors who are seeking help with one or more of the following. So fertility preservation, things like harvesting eggs or embryos, keeping in mind that you still need to meet the treatment criteria. So if you're doing any sort of fertility preservation post-treatment, then that's something you can apply for help with now. Assisted reproductive technologies like IVF or IUI, expenses associated with gestational carriers or surrogacy, and expenses associated with adoption. So the average grant size in this particular category tends to be a little bit higher than in our general grants categories. It tends to be around $2,500 to $4,000. We know that that is really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the total cost. So we'll go through sort of the ideas that we have for, the total cost and how to make this particular range meaningful. But just so that you know going into it, the average grant size for these family building grants is somewhere between $2,500 and $4,000. As far as the timeline on grants, it's also important to note that these grants need to be paid out by spring 2020. So if right now you're just starting to sort of explore your options, you're not ready to get started, you haven't started saving, you don't really have a sense of what the total cost is going to be, then now may not be the best time for you to apply for this family building grant. But we will be doing this twice a year, and so there'll be another grant cycle opening up sometime in probably spring 2020. And so this will be ongoing, but the timing is important because what we award now needs to be paid out by the spring. So if that's not likely to be possible, we would say just wait, gather your information, make your plan, and then apply a little bit later. So what is the SAM Fund looking for in a family building applicant? So good candidates for a grant, as I was just saying, have a good sense of your process or whatever procedure you've chosen and the timeline around it. So if it feels very far off and you're not even going to be able to get started for a couple of years, I would wait on applying for a grant. But if you know that you're ready to start and you know that you can use these grant funds by spring 2020, then absolutely please submit an application. So I just referenced the total cost of family building, and we know that really any of the options we've outlined in the previous slide are way more expensive than $2,500 to $4,000. And so what's really important to our review committee is that you have a plan, that you've started saving or doing what you need to be able to finance this, have most of what you need, and then need this grant to be able to either get started or get finished or move on to the next phase of whatever process you're pursuing. So sort of second to that, if you've saved a certain amount and we're able to award a grant of $2,500 to $4,000, but there's still going to be a balance for you, our reviewers want to know that you have a plan for how to secure any remaining funding. So whether it's researching different grants, researching different loans, having support from family members, whatever it is, it's important that, our review committee sees that with our grant and with what you've saved, you have a plan for financing the rest. So finally, good candidates for a grant don't necessarily have to be great writers. This is not a college application essay. This is not a cover letter for a job. But we do need to know the information. We do need to have the information that we need in order to make a decision. So please be sure to answer the questions thoroughly and clearly. So Michelle's going to take you through a couple of slides that shows you what the application looks like, but right off the bat, we just wanted to give you a heads up on the things that you'll need in order to apply so that when you sit down to submit an application, you have all the information ready to go. So we asked for some basic information about your cancer diagnosis and treatment, more in terms of the dates of treatment and the types of treatment. We don't need an exhaustive list, nor do we need full medical records, but we do need completion of a medical history verification form, which is signed by a clinician. And essentially that's just a form that either your treating oncologist or your primary care physician or somebody that treats you medically for anything can sign, verifying that you have had cancer and that you were treated between certain dates, and we do ask for their license number on that. Then you'll have a couple of short essays just detailing the requests that you're making and the reasons that you're applying for this particular grant. We ask for some tax paperwork for the last 2 years just to back up the financial information that you're giving us. If you haven't filed taxes, then we have an affidavit that needs to be signed and notarized, which we'll talk a little bit about later. And then finally, we'll ask for some financial information about, your total income right now, your expenses, any assets, and any liabilities or debts that you have. So I'm going to turn this over to Michelle. She's going to take you through the grants process, and I know that a couple comments have come in, so I'm going to take this opportunity to take a look at them.
Great. Terrific. Thanks, everybody. So in terms of the logistics of our application, the link will be posted right on our grants page as of September 11th, probably sometime in the morning. And from there, I'm going to take you through a couple of sample slides here so that you can see just some screenshots of what that looks like. So you'll basically just enter in your name, and you'll click Save and enter your email address for a unique link. You want to make sure that you receive that email before you continue with your application, because that's what's going to allow you to go back and edit your application and submit it later. We try to be really explicit with all of our instructions, try to make it easy for everybody to see what they need to do. Please answer each question to the best of your ability and as completely as you can, particularly those essays. They're really important to help the review committee understand what's going on. They can really only go by what it is that you share with them. So it's super important that you give them as much detail as you can. And make sure also when you go to submit that you receive an email confirmation that it went through. And if not, you want to contact us immediately. So head to the next slide. Great. So this is just a little screenshot of the first page of the application where you can see the instructions there. You can see where you enter in your first and last name. Pretty basic. The next slide. So here is the bottom of that page, and highlighted there in big red arrow, that's where you click Save, and that's where you're going to be prompted for your email address. And that is what the email is going to look like that you're going to receive. It's going to come from grants@thesamfund.org, and that link right there that you click here to continue your submission, you want to hold on to that because that's going to be the link that allows you to continue. So a little bit about the medical history verification form. You're going to download this form within the application. You're going to send it off to your doctor right away. You want to do that as early as possible because I can't tell you how many people have had issues submitting an application because they had everything else ready, but the medical history form was holding them up, so I want to make sure that you get that in early. The doctor will need to fill out every field on the form. You can fill out the top, which you'll see asks for some basic contact information just in case it gets sent back to us. We need to know how to contact you. Make sure that the doctor selects the appropriate eligibility criteria and signs it and includes their license number on there. And the completed and signed form ideally should be returned to you, and then you should be able to upload it to your application either by scanning it in. You can also take a photo of it. If it's a nice readable JPEG, you can upload it yourself. And if you need any help uploading the form, you want to email us at grants@thesamfund.org, All we would need in order to help you do that is you'd need to also forward us that email that contained the unique link to your application. We can't reach it on the back end otherwise. By the way, this form does not need to be signed by your treating oncologist. It can be signed by any licensed clinician who can verify that you were treated for cancer. So that can be a nurse. It can be your primary care physician. It could be a social worker. It does not need to be your treating oncologist. A lot of times those folks are so super busy, it is impossible to get a form signed in time, so you don't need to go there. If you happen to be going in anyway and that person can sign the form for you while you're there, terrific, but it's not required that it be that treating oncologist. And the form is required before your application can be submitted, so you want to make sure to download it and get it to your physician right away. Please do not upload a blank form in there and say something like, to be returned later, because we're going to have to unsubmit your application. So please be sure that it is up there before you submit. And as far as your tax returns go, so you're going to be asked to submit the first 2 pages of your 1040s, both from 2017 and 2018. 2018, some of those, we know that the tax laws changed or the requirements changed, and so some people have a 1040 from 2018 that's 1 page, and some people have one that's 2. It's a little simplified. You can upload the pages as 1 file, or you can upload them separately as 2 separate files. That's fine. Please don't send us your entire 100-page upload from TurboTax. If you need help separating those out, you can let us know. We can help you do that ahead of time. Again, email us at grants@thesamfund.org. And we're asking people for your own security to please redact your Social Security number from those forms, whether it means you take a black magic marker and do it before you, scan those forms in or before you email them in. Or, if you're a little more computer savvy and you have a program like an Adobe program that will allow you to actually go in and just redact those, put in a little black bar over them, that's ideal. We'll try to do that on our end if you're not able to, but it's ideally, much better if you're able to do that, and we never even see them. We take a lot of precautions around data safety and security to try to protect that from everybody, and we don't actually hold on to these forms after the application process is over. We delete them, we wipe them completely, but just because, it's scary out there on the internet these days, we just want you guys to be as safe as possible. So even though we do ask for the forms, we don't need your Social Security number. So if you did not file taxes in both of those years, you either filed taxes in 1 year or neither year, we'll ask you to download and submit an affidavit. So this is an editable Microsoft Word file, which you can either edit electronically, or you can print it out and take a pen if you want and cross out things that don't apply to you, write in things that do apply to you. It doesn't, as long as it's readable, it's fine. It doesn't need to be, typed in. Just a form stating why you did not file taxes in one or both of those years. So it may be because you were on disability, or maybe you weren't required to file, or maybe you are 21 and you were declared a dependent on your parents' tax returns. We don't want to see your parents' tax returns. If you didn't file taxes, that's fine. You just would submit an affidavit indicating why. I'll also say that if, for whatever reason, you're having difficulty finding your tax returns from 2017 or 2018, the other thing that you can do, you can go onto the IRS website and download a tax summary for free. Again, none of this should cost you anything. Same with we'll talk about the Notary Public in a minute, but you could go on to irs.gov again and download a tax summary, and we'll accept that in lieu of a 1040 if you're not able to find it, or your CPA is hard to track down, or it's going to take too long to get it. So the affidavit does need to be notarized by a notary public, who is basically just somebody who's been certified as an official who can sign and put a stamp on a document saying, yes, this is true. So you can find a notary public at a number of places in your community. You can call a public library, your local bank. You can call local city hall, your court office, even places like insurance agencies or real estate agencies. A lot of businesses will have somebody on hand who is a notary public. There are notaries who charge, which I think it's just absurd. So please call around a little bit. There's no reason for anybody to have to pay any money at all in order to submit this application. So if the first place you call says, yes, so-and-so will do it for $50, call another place. Call your local bank. See if you can find somebody else who can do it. Next slide. Thank you. So this is, again, just a screenshot of what the page looks like when we ask if you filed taxes. If you said yes, it's going to prompt you for your Form 1040 from 2018, and you can upload those pages one at a time if you need. So if you have a combined file, great, and if not, then you would just click on Add File right below there and add your second page. That's fine. And the last page here, so again, just a warning to make sure that everything is totally complete, asking everybody to take a peek back. You can save it one more time on that last page. I think that's a terrific idea, just in case there's any sort of technical snafu submitting. And once you're done and sure everything is good to go and you've saved it again, you can click on Send. And then you should moments later receive an email indicating that we received your submission. If you do not see that email, please contact us immediately, and we'll try to figure out what's going on. So again, please be sure everything is correctly filled out and uploaded before you submit. We are still a small team, and we are not able to check through every applications for errors in advance of the deadline. We try to do our best, and if we see something come in that has something missing or doesn't look right, then we'll try to go back to you. This is another benefit of submitting your application earlier on, is that we are more likely to have the time to catch something if something is missing or incorrect, and to go back to you and give you an opportunity to fix it. But we do encourage you strongly to ask us questions before the time you submit if there's any question at all. If you're not sure about something, we're more than happy to take the time in advance of the deadline, in advance of your submission, to try to figure it out. And applications that are incomplete or of incorrect forms will not be reviewed. So we try really hard to make sure that does not happen. And hold on a second, I'm just getting a message in here. Let me see. Okay, so the question here had to do about whether or not we'll check the application once it's submitted or prior to that time. So we do our best informally on this end to try to look at submissions as they come in during the course of the grant cycle. And if we see something prior to the deadline and it looks like it's something that can be fixed, then we will often try to go back to the applicant and say, hey, we noticed that your form was incomplete. Can you get it back to us? Once the deadline happens, at that point, submissions are in. They are what they are. And if we find that there are errors after the fact, after the deadline, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about them at that time. So we do encourage people not to wait until the last minute. So if there's anything going on or there's anything wrong, it will give you an opportunity to correct it. But again, we just sort of do our very best. If we have, a million applications coming in right at that deadline, then we're not going to be able to look at them in advance. So again, we encourage people to try to do them earlier rather than later. So the application will be available starting on next Wednesday, the 11th, sometime in that morning, and the deadline is Friday, October 4th at 5 p.m. And unfortunately, we cannot make any exceptions to that deadline. So again, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, not Pacific Time, not Mountain Time, not Central Time, Eastern Time. Again, suggestion to get that medical history form to your doctor as soon as possible. And all applicants will be notified by early December at the latest. And again, the payout period will be into the spring. So I think that's everything right now. Good luck. Please, again, email us with any questions. Email is definitely the fastest way to get a response. And I think right now we'll take a few minutes to see if there are any questions or comments that came in. Doesn't look like we have any questions. If anyone has something that they've been wondering, feel free to take a moment to send Sam a chat, or it'll look like it's me. You can send a chat to me.
Maybe that means it was so thorough, nobody has any questions. That's great if that's the case.
Well, if you're listening to this after the fact, we are going to post this on our website. The site you see right there, the samfund.org/gethelp/grants. So if you need to reference it or you want to look at the slides, we're going to include those as well. So if there are any questions that anyone has listening to this in the future, please feel free to email us, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for joining us this morning. Hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully it answered any questions that you have. We're going to post, like I said, the recording on our YouTube channel. We'll put up a link on our Facebook, Twitter, and probably just Facebook and Twitter. But the link will be also on the grants page. So when you go to access the application on the 11th or any time after that, there will be a link out to this webinar. So feel free to go back and reference it. Reach out anytime with questions, and good luck to all of you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.